The storm was screaming around us when I saw it. Lightning split the sky for just a moment, casting the rig in stark white against the endless black ocean. And there it was, the nest. It pulsed. It moved. A writhing liquid mass that glistened like oil and mud, clinging to the steel walls of the engineering deck. The shape of it was wrong, bulging with hints of human limbs, broken faces, and bones trapped inside the sludge. I swear to God it was breathing. And then it opened an eye. A single, shining, lidless orb floated up out of the sludge and fixed on us. That was the last thing Sergeant Morales saw before the creature reached out, faster than anything that wet and heavy should have been able to move, and pulled him, screaming, into the black mass. I remember shouting, firing, the stutter of rifle fire echoing off steel walls as my shots cut straight through, spraying droplets of thick fluid that only knitted itself back together. I remember the way the thing sounded, not like an animal, but like 100 whispers bubbling up from drowning throats. And I remember knowing, with a certainty that settled in my bones, that we were never supposed to be here. That thing had been waiting. 12 hours earlier, the sky was calm, the sea deceptively smooth, and our squad was inbound to the black tide rig, a place where 80 men and women had vanished without a trace. The Coast Guard had already tried to investigate. Their helicopter still sat on the landing pad, but no one had ever reported back. The company wanted the rig shut down before the storm hit. The military wanted answers. And me, I just wanted to make it home alive. The storm was still hours away when our chopper banked low over the Gulf. From the air, the sea looked like a rolling sheet of black glass, but the horizon was already bruising with thick clouds. The pilot didn't need to say it. We all felt the storm coming, pressing at our nerves. I pressed my forehead to the window and got my first glimpse of the black tide rig. It rose from the ocean like a dying thing, a sprawl of steel girders, pipes, and platforms looming in the middle of nowhere. Half the light still burned, pale and flickering against the encroaching dark. A red beacon light pulsed slowly from the top mast, but there was no movement, no sign of life. Then I saw it, the Coast Guard helicopter, sitting neatly on the landing pad like it had just arrived. But its doors were open, its rotors motionless, abandoned. The pilot's voice crackled in our comms. "Touchdown in 2 minutes, wind's picking up, make it quick in there." No one answered. We were too busy staring at the rig, at the emptiness of it. Sergeant Morales, our squad leader, broke the silence. "All right, listen up. Rules are simple. We move in pairs. We sweep the rig from top down. Company engineers stick close. We don't need anyone wandering off. We keep radio contact open at all times. Got it?" We all gave curt nods. Even the 3 company men, dressed in bright orange safety gear, nodded nervously. They weren't soldiers. They were here to shut down equipment, to protect assets, as they put it. But I saw the way their eyes lingered on the storm clouds. They were scared. Maybe more scared than we were. The chopper set down with a metallic thud on the rig's landing pad. As the rotors wound down, silence rolled over us. Not true silence. There was the constant groan of metal shifting, the deep thrum of machinery somewhere below, and the faint slap of waves against the supports, but it felt silent, empty. We disembarked in a staggered line, boots clanging against the steel. The air smelled like salt, oil, and something else, something foul, like brackish water and wet earth. The Coast Guard helicopter was only 20 feet away. Morales signaled for us to check it. I approached with Corporal Hayes. The cockpit was empty, the radios smashed. One of the harnesses dangled loose, slick with something that looked like mud, but clung in thick strands when I touched it with my glove. "Where the hell is the crew?" Hayes muttered. I didn't answer. I didn't want to. Morales called us to regroup and we filed toward the main door leading inside the rig. The storm wind tugged at our gear as if urging us to hurry, to get it over with. The door was unlocked. Rust squealed as we pushed it open. Inside was dim, lit only by flickering fluorescent strips that hummed overhead. The smell was stronger in here, like rot that had seeped into steel. We moved in. The corridor stretched ahead, lined with pipes, valves, and peeling paint. The floor was slick underfoot as though water had seeped through, but it wasn't water. It was thicker, darker, leaving faint smears under our boots. "Jesus," one of the company men whispered. Morales cut him off sharply. "Eyes forward. Stay focused." We swept the first section in silence. Mess hall, quarters, offices, all empty. But not abandoned. Plates of half-eaten food sat on tables, coffee cups half full, a game of cards scattered mid-play. In one cabin, the shower was still running, water pooling at our feet. It was like they had just gotten up and walked away. "Not a damn body," Hayes muttered. He was trying to sound annoyed, but his voice was too tight. We moved deeper, flashlights cutting through the dim corridors, radios crackling occasionally with static. But no voices answered when Morales hailed the missing crew. Only silence. I kept waiting to hear something. Footsteps, breathing, anything that would explain where 80 men and women had gone. But there was nothing. Just that faint smell of wet earth that seemed to follow us through the corridors. When we reached the recreation room, I froze. A Coast Guard helmet sat on the couch. The visor was smeared with that same mud-like substance, dried in streaks that almost looked like handprints. And for the first time, I realized the silence wasn't just absence. It was waiting. The Coast Guard helmet sat there on the couch like someone had left it 5 minutes ago. Morales picked it up with 2 fingers, turned it over, and swore under his breath. "Same as the chopper," he muttered. "What the hell is this stuff?" Up close, the smears looked like mud, but clung like tar. Thick and stringy, it stretched slightly when Morales pulled at it before snapping back, leaving a tacky residue on his glove. One of the company men, Alvarez, I think his name was, recoiled. "I told you something went wrong with the drill. This is coming up from the seabed. It's contamination, biohazard." Morales shot him a glare. "Then why didn't your people report it? Why didn't they call it in before vanishing?" Alvarez had no answer. He just pulled his hard hat lower and looked away. We pressed on. The deeper we went, the more wrong everything felt. Crew quarters still had open lockers, clothes hung half pulled out. A duffel bag sat on a bunk, unzipped, like someone was halfway through packing. The cafeteria was worse. Plates still sat on trays. A sandwich, half eaten, had gone moldy. A pot of coffee burned itself into sludge on the hot plate. One tray lay overturned on the floor, its food smeared and rotted. No bodies, no signs of panic. Just absence. Hayes kicked a chair, sending it clattering. "This is bullshit. 80 people don't just vanish." The sound echoed too loud in the stillness. Everyone flinched. We moved into the operations wing, our boots squeaking faintly on slick floors. Pipes groaned overhead. The whole rig seemed to creak, almost like it was breathing with the ocean swell. And then a noise. Faint, wet, a dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across steel. We froze, weapons raised. The sound came from deeper in the rig, beyond the sealed door to the engineering decks. Then it stopped. The silence afterward was somehow worse. Morales gestured sharply. "We'll come back to that. Top-down sweep, remember? Engineering last." No one argued. Not yet. We swept through the medical bay, empty. A tray of syringes scattered across the floor, one broken and dried with dark residue. The locker room. Empty. Showers still damp, towels half hung. Everywhere the same story. People were here, then they weren't. Hours passed this way. We kept expecting answers, but all we found were questions. And then the radios started picking up the storm. Command to Black Tide team, be advised, tropical depression strengthening. Storm advancing faster than expected. Estimate landfall on your position in 16 hours. Repeat, 16 hours. Morales cursed under his breath. He looked at Alvarez and the other company men. You said you could shut this rig down fast. How fast? Alvarez swallowed. 6 hours, maybe more. It's not just pulling a plug, it's a full process. If we don't secure the drills, pressure valves, pumps, this whole thing could blow. Then we move faster, Morales snapped. We've got a deadline. The storm wasn't just weather anymore. It was a countdown. We pushed deeper into the rig. The higher levels gave way to narrow corridors and industrial platforms. The lights flickered constantly now, some dead entirely, forcing us to rely on flashlights.
The smell was worse here. A sour, earthen stench that clung in our throats. Slime trails streaked walls and floors, faint but unmistakable. Some pulsed faintly in our beams, like they were still wet. Corporal Hayes knelt near one. This isn't mud. Look at it. It's alive. No, Morales said firmly. Don't start that. But I saw it too. The way the street glistened, the way it seemed to shift when the light passed over it. We entered the crew lounge. The TV was still on, playing static. A half-dozen mugs of beer sat on the counter, flat and untouched. One still had fingerprints on the glass. And then, for the briefest moment, I swore I saw movement in the reflection of the TV. A figure standing in the doorway behind me. I spun, rifle up, but the corridor was empty. Nothing but the faint drip, drip, drip of water. Except it wasn't water. The drip was thicker, darker, each drop hitting the floor with a sound like wet clay. When I followed the trail upward, my beam caught the ceiling. Something had smeared across the steel above us, long streaks of that black, viscous sludge. And embedded in it, God help me, was a handprint. Not pressed onto the ceiling, but into it, as if someone had been dragged upward into the steel itself. Hayes swore loudly and stepped back. One of the company men retched in the corner. Morales barked, "Keep it together. We don't know what this is yet." But his voice wasn't steady anymore. We regrouped and pushed onward, step by step, corridor by corridor. And everywhere we looked, the rig answered us with silence. Until finally, hours into the sweep, we circled back to the sealed doors leading down into engineering. The place where we'd heard that dragging sound. Morales stood in front of it, staring at the rusted steel. The storm growled somewhere outside, closer now, rattling the rig. He looked back at us. "This is it," he said quietly. "This is where we find our answers." And though he didn't say it, we all knew the truth. This was where we'd find the missing crew, or what was left of them. The door to engineering loomed in front of us, a slab of steel painted safety yellow, streaked with rust and something darker. Warning stencils were nearly worn away, but we didn't need them. Everything about that place radiated danger. Morales ordered us to hold. He signaled for Alvarez and the other company men to step forward. "You said this was the heart of the rig. You're up." Alvarez paled. "You want us to go first?" "Not alone," Morales said. "We'll cover you. But you know the layout. We don't." The three company men exchanged looks, then reluctantly moved toward the door. Alvarez keyed in a code on the panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the locks disengaged with a grinding clunk. The door groaned open. Hot, damp air rolled out. The stench hit us harder now. Wet soil, oil, and something sour beneath it all, like rot that had been sealed away too long.
We descended. The stairwell was narrow, claustrophobic, each step ringing against metal grates. Water, or something thicker, dripped steadily, echoing in the space. When we emerged onto the engineering deck, the air felt heavy, humid. The lights here were dimmer, more flicker than glow. Shadows moved unnaturally along the walls, stretching and warping when the fluorescence buzzed overhead. The first chamber was lined with machinery. Massive pumps, gauges, pipes hissing faintly, all of it still running. That was the worst part. The rig was alive. It was still breathing, still drilling, even though the people were gone. We spread out cautiously, flashlights sweeping over the room. "Stay sharp," Morales whispered into comms. "Anything moves, call it." For a while, nothing. Just the rhythmic thrum of machinery. Then we found the first real sign of them. A work boot. Just one, wedged in the corner near a pump. It wasn't empty. Inside was a foot. We stood there in frozen silence, the company men gagging behind us. The flesh was pale, swollen, but intact, like the rest of the body had been pulled out of it. Hayes muttered, "What the hell could do that?"
No one answered. We pushed deeper, nerves raw. The catwalks creaked under our boots as we moved between tanks and piping. The deeper we went, the more we saw. Tools dropped mid-use, a flashlight still burning weakly, a wrench slick with that black sludge. In one corner, we found a locker room door wedged open. Inside, the walls were slick with the substance. It clung in ropes, dripping slowly to the floor. And in the center of the room, a chair. Strapped to it, a body, or what was left of one. The skin was bloated, stretched, glistening with slime. The face was gone, replaced by a blank, smooth surface of dark fluid, pulsed faintly, like it was still trying to form features. One of the company men screamed. Morales grabbed his vest and slammed him against the wall. "Shut up! You want to bring the whole rig down on us?" But his own voice shook. I couldn't stop staring at the thing. It wasn't just dead. It was being changed, absorbed. We left it behind. Every corridor after that seemed narrower, darker. Every shadow stretched too long. The storm announced itself more clearly now. Wind howling through vents, the rig shuddering under the first real waves. The comms buzzed again. "Command to Black Tide team, weather update. Storm ETA 12 hours. Advise immediate progress." 12 hours. That was all. We pressed on, urgency clawing at us. The engineering deck spread wide, a labyrinth of machinery, catwalks, and storage bays. Every new passage threatened to swallow us. Then it happened. We were crossing a grated walkway over a vast chamber of pipes when something dripped onto Hayes' shoulder. He brushed it with his glove, looked down. Thick, black fluid. Slowly, all our lights tilted upward. And there it was. Something clung to the ceiling above us. A mass of shifting sludge, rippling and sliding over the steel like liquid alive. For a moment it was formless. Then it shifted, pulling itself into something vaguely human-shaped. A face formed. Not a real one, a mask of stretched fluid, blank-eyed, mouth gaping. It looked at us. Hayes screamed and fired. Bullets tore through it, spraying droplets of thick sludge that rained down on us. But the thing didn't fall. It just melted back into the shadows above, vanishing deeper into the rig's guts. Silence followed. Only the dripping remained. Morales growled, "We move, now!" And we did. Faster, tighter together. But in that moment, we all knew the truth. We weren't alone on the Black Tide rig. And whatever had taken the crew was still here. The rig swallowed us deeper. Every deck felt the same. Narrow corridors, dripping pipes, the flicker of half-dead fluorescence. The smell was unbearable now. Earth and rot, thick enough to taste. We didn't talk much anymore.
Only Morales' orders, whispered and sharp. Every other sound seemed too loud, like it might bring something down on us. We reached a wide maintenance bay, its walls slick with condensation. Rows of lockers lined one side. A crane hung overhead, still holding a suspended load of drilling equipment. The place was quiet, empty. We spread out to search. I stuck close to Hayes. He looked pale, jittery. He hadn't been the same since that thing on the ceiling. The company men fumbled nervously with their instruments, checking gauges, muttering about containment protocols and pressure stabilizers. It was background noise, useless against the weight pressing in on us. Then I heard it again. That sound. Wet. Dragging. Somewhere in the shadows above the catwalks. I froze, motioned Hayes to listen. His eyes widened. He'd heard it too. But Morales barked, "Keep moving! Stay sharp! Don't freeze up!" So we did. Until it happened. Private Jensen, one of the youngest in our squad, moved ahead to check a side passage. He was maybe 10 feet away, flashlight beam bouncing across rusted steel. Then it was just gone. Not the light. Him. 1 second, he was there. The next, something dropped from the ceiling like a curtain of black liquid, and he was swallowed. No scream. No gunfire. Just gone. I saw it. Only me. A ripple. A shape. Pulling him upward into the shadows. His light clattered to the floor, rolling to a stop against my boot. I froze, staring at that beam of light, too stunned to move. Hayes whispered, "Where'd he go?" I couldn't answer. My throat was locked. "Where the hell did Jensen go?" Morales demanded. All I could do was stammer. He was here, he's... But what could I say? That the ceiling had eaten him? That black mud had come alive and stolen him whole? Morales grabbed my vest, yanking me close. "Spit it out, soldier." I don't know, I whispered. He was just gone. The squad shifted uneasily, scanning the shadows, weapons raised. Hayes's light cut across the ceiling. Nothing there, just rust, drips, shadows. "God damn it," Morales growled. "No one goes alone, no one." But we all knew the truth. I wasn't lying. Something had taken him, and it was still up there. We moved tighter after that, shoulders almost touching. Every sound made us flinch. The storm outside grew louder, rattling the rig, howling through the vents. Lightning flashed through a narrow porthole, painting the chamber stark white for a second. That's when I saw it. The smear. On the far wall where steel met floor, a dark stain, thick and wet, glistening in the flashlight beams. It wasn't just a smear. It was a trail, leading deeper. We followed it, step by step, boots clanging softly against the grates. The air grew heavier, hotter, the smell overpowering. The corridor opened into a massive chamber, engineering. And we saw it. The nest. It spread across the machinery, a vast colony of sludge dripping and writhing like living tar. Shapes pulsed within it, bones, half-digested limbs, faces frozen in silent screams. The whole mass shifted slowly, breathing, feeding. One of the company men sobbed. The nest answered. It shivered, moved, and then split. Shapes tore themselves free from the mass, pulling upright, forming crude mockeries of human figures. Their limbs were too long, their movements too fluid, faces stretched and collapsed, never holding form. They turned toward us, and they moved. "Contact!" Morales roared. The chamber erupted in gunfire, muzzle flashes strobing the nightmare into jagged glimpses. Sludge figures surging forward,
bullets passing through them, droplets spraying and reforming. The air filled with the smell of rot and gunpowder. The nest itself pulsed harder, as though the gunfire was feeding it. I fired until my magazine ran dry, and still they came. This wasn't a search anymore. This was survival. The nest erupted. Sludge shapes lunged out of the mass, pulling themselves upright, sliding across the steel floor with grotesque speed. Their limbs bent wrong, stretching like liquid rubber, snapping back with wet cracks. Faces formed and collapsed on their bodies in a constant, shifting nightmare. We opened fire. Muzzle flashes lit the chamber in violent bursts. Bullets shredded through them, spraying chunks of slime that splattered against the walls, only to reform, writhing back into shape. "Keep shooting!" Morales bellowed. But we all knew it wasn't working. The creatures surged forward. One of the company men screamed as a tendril wrapped around his throat, yanking him into the mass. He vanished in seconds, leaving nothing but a twisted helmet spinning across the floor. Chaos. Pure chaos. Grenades went off, concussive blasts rocking the chamber. For a heartbeat, the creatures staggered, their bodies collapsing into puddles. But then the sludge pulled itself back together, flowing into fresh shapes, stronger than before. "Fall back," Morales shouted. "Regroup at checkpoint Echo." We splintered, panic breaking the formation. Some fled through side passages, others scrambled up catwalks. Gunfire echoed in every direction, mingled with screaming. I ran. I don't even remember which way. Just followed the first open corridor, Hayes at my side, the two surviving company men stumbling behind us. The radio crackled. "Alpha team, fall back, GH." Static. "Bravo team, report." Silence. Then Morales' voice, firm but strained. "Stay alive. Regroup at..." His words cut off mid-sentence, replaced by a wet gurgle.
The radio went dead.
I froze in the corridor, panting. "Sergeant? Sergeant, respond!" Nothing. The silence told me everything. Morales was gone. I looked at Hayes, wide-eyed, pale, clutching his rifle like it was the only thing anchoring him. "We can't go back," I said. "We'll never regroup. They're gone." He shook his head. We can't leave them. They're gone!" I repeated, my voice cracked. "It's us or nothing!" The company men whimpered behind us. I made the call. "We go up. We go to the bird. Now!" We climbed. Corridors rattled under the storm. Rain hammered the rig from outside, echoing through the steel bones. Every shadow seemed to move. Behind us, the sound followed. Wet dragging, liquid slapping against metal. They were coming. We reached a junction. A figure lurched out of the darkness, sludge coalescing into a human shape. Its face rippled, shifting into something I recognized. Jensen, the soldier who'd vanished. His mouth opened in a scream that wasn't his. I pulled a grenade from my vest and hurled it down the passage. The blast lit the corridor in a fireball, steel shuddering around us. For a second, the figure dissolved into bubbling chunks. The others staggered, their forms collapsing. It bought us maybe 5 seconds. Then they reformed, dragging themselves back into shape. "Run!" I screamed. We sprinted. Up stairwells, through dripping corridors. The storm was howling now, tearing at the rig. One of the company men screamed behind me. I spun just in time to see him dragged into the dark by a tidal surge of sludge, his flashlight vanishing like a drowning star. "Keep moving!" I shouted at the last one. "Don't stop!" But it didn't matter. On the final stairwell before the landing pad, the last company man slipped. He hit the grates hard, scrambled to his feet, and froze. Tendrils slithered up between the steps, wrapping around his legs. He shrieked, clawing at me for help. I tried. I swear I tried. But the tendrils yanked him through the grates, his screams muffled, then gone. It was just Hayes and me now. We hit the final stairwell. The landing pad loomed above, our salvation. The helicopter's rotors were already spinning, crew waving us on, but the doors behind us burst open. The sludge poured through, a wave of writhing black climbing over itself, tendrils slamming against the walls. Dozens of faces screamed silently from within it, mouths stretching open and closed like drowning men. Hayes froze. Jesus Christ! I yanked a grenade from my vest, pulled the pin, and hurled it. The blast lit the corridor in fire and smoke. For a second, the creatures collapsed, splattered across the walls. Then, impossibly, they pulled themselves back together. "Run!" I shouted. We scrambled onto the pad. The storm was raging now, rain slashing sideways, wind tearing at our gear. The helicopter dipped and wavered in the gusts. The sludge spilled after us, flooding across the pad, writhing and clawing upward. Hayes turned, firing into the mass. "Go, get to the bird!" I struck a flare. Red fire hissed to life in my hand. The creatures recoiled instantly. They screamed, not with mouths, but with a chorus of bubbling voices that rattled in my bones. They pulled back, writhing like worms in salt. "Fire!" I gasped. "They hate fire!" "Then light the whole goddamn ocean!" Hayes shouted, dragging me toward the helicopter. We stumbled inside as the crew grabbed us, shoving us into seats. The pilot screamed over the storm, "We're too heavy! We have to go now!" But before the doors closed, the sludge surged forward one last time, slamming against the landing pad and wrapping around the skids. Tendrils lashed upward, striking the open door. One caught Hayes. He screamed as it dragged him halfway out, his rifle clattering to the floor. I grabbed his vest with both hands, pulling with everything I had. "Don't let go!" he howled. The flare was still in my fist. I jammed it against the tendril. The creature shrieked, recoiling in a spray of boiling sludge. Hayes tumbled back into the chopper, gasping, soaked in black residue, but alive. "Go!" I roared. The helicopter lifted, rotors screaming, pulling us free. The sludge surged beneath us, climbing stairwells, ladders, scaffolds, boiling upward in a living tide. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the nightmare as it filled the pad below us. And then the storm hit full force. The rig groaned as waves hammered its supports. Towers toppled. Fire blossomed from ruptured fuel lines, lightning igniting it in bursts of orange flame. The black tide rig shuddered and collapsed, dragged into the ocean's teeth. From above, we saw it drown, but not die. The sludge swirled, circling like a whirlpool, refusing to sink. Hayes clutched my arm, his face white. "It's not gone. Tell me you don't see it. It's not gone." I couldn't lie. I saw it. The storm would bury the rig, but the ocean couldn't hold what we had awoken. The debriefing was clinical, cold. I sat in a room of faceless officers telling them what happened, what we saw, what we lost. They wrote it down, nodding, pretending to listen. Then one of them closed the file and said, "Storm destroyed the rig. Official report, equipment failure, unfortunate casualties. Do you understand, Sergeant?" I did. The truth wasn't leaving that room. But the truth didn't care. A week later, on a small beach hundreds of miles away, children played in the sand while their parents lounged under umbrellas. The sky was clear, the waves gentle. One little girl ran to the shoreline, laughing, splashing in the surf. Something black washed up against her feet. Thick, tar-like. It writhed just slightly before the wave pulled it back out to sea. The girl frowned, then turned back to her parents. "Daddy?" she called, pointing. "What's that?" But the ocean was already swallowing the sludge again, pulling it deeper, spreading it wider. Waiting. The black tide rig is gone now, swallowed by the ocean, torn apart by the storm. But you and I both know that doesn't mean the nightmare is over. Somewhere out there in the dark, it's waiting. And maybe one day,
it will come back. If you enjoyed this story, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Every bit of support means the world, especially for a growing channel like this one, and it helps us keep bringing you more terrifying tales from the deep, the dark, and the unknown. Until next time, keep your lights burning bright, and whatever you do, don't look too long at the tide.